All right, let's get to it right away. And we have joining us for this paper review, Mr. Ayo Akerea is a member, Nigerian Guild of Editors, former deputy editor and Abuja bureau chief of The Guardian, and former editor of The Source. He's live for us from our Abuja studio with the iconic hat. Mr. Akerea, it's good to see you again. Good morning. Good morning. All right, so let's get started with the front pages of. We'll begin with Vanguard newspaper, and Vanguard newspaper begins with Cybercrime Act, but it's a very interesting slant to it. So the law is meant to help you do the right things right. It's meant to help everybody know what is right from what is wrong. But see how the law is being used now. How misuse of Cybercrime Act costs Nigeria 1.1 trillion naira in 7 years. They explain as follows. Banks, telcos, MDAs, networks breached. Financial sector loses 53 billion naira to cyber criminals in 2024. You see, urgent need arises for reimagining cybercrime enforcement architecture. It's a page 2 read in the Vanguard newspaper, and this is something that is really, really concerning, but particularly when you see the breach that is being reported, the loss in just 1 year to the financial sector, particularly from cyber criminals, and then looking for a new way to enforce cybercrime architecture in Nigeria. There's been a narrative with the police also using it the wrong way. Any small thing, they look for a section in that act. But Mr. Ayo Akerea, good morning once again, and thank you for joining us. This is how the Vanguard is leading today. Misuse of Cybercrime Act costing Nigeria 1.1 trillion naira in 7 years. As a journalist,
at least I can hear them.
Oh, fantastic. Just to confirm if you can hear us, Mr. Akerea. Okay, not to worry. We're going to get that sorted and bring Mr. Akerea in. But just to mention some other stories on the front page. You see strike, that's top left corner, by the way. FG approves policy to regulate trade unions' activities. This is a very interesting one. We'll see how the trade unions respond to this one, because I think it's been a long time coming. I think the former government tried something like this, but what will this entail and how will the trade unions receive it is a big question. But just one more time, Mr. Akerea, we'll come to you to get your response to that, so please keep this in the can. That's a big story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Keep it in the can. We'll come back to speak to this one. But let's just try it. Ms. Akerea, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. It's good to see you again. I was commending your hat earlier on. But the big story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper is on the misuse of Cybercrime Act. And I'd like you to speak to it. But also that bit about regulation of trade unions' activities. It's always a thorny issue, right?
Well, it's not the first time that the government will attempt to regulate trade union. If you recall vividly, during the Obasanjo presidency, there was a lot of efforts to do that. Even beyond Obasanjo, from the days of the military, whether it is Babangida or Abacha, there has always been efforts to try and regulate the trade union, but I wonder if that is the way to go. If you look at the recent developments in labor relations between the various trade unions, whether it is the TUC, the NLC, and all of that, with government, the issue has always been the ability and capacity of the government, or willingness of the government, as it were, to keep to agreements. That has been the crux of the issues with government. If you also look at ASU, the several ASU strikes, the accusation has always been that government is not always willing to keep to its own side of the bargain. So it is not now government is proposing regulation. Apparently, is to streamline and to maybe hamper trade union activities using legislative action. I do not think that is a good step to take. It is even undemocratic, because the trade union itself is a key component of enhancing and developing democracy in any nation. So if the government is contemplating that, I do not think that it is the right way to go. It sends the wrong signals, very negative as it were.
Maybe let's go to the Daily Independent newspaper. There are two parts of the stories there that I would like you to speak to as well. But let's start with the big, broad story. Tinubu charges governors on resources trickling down to the grassroots to support 1,000 economically active persons in each ward, I guess in the 774 local government and area councils in the country. So he's been talking about wetting the ground issues. He's been talking about increased FAC allocation, at least in Naira terms, and that for him should be able to go some mileage in sorting out a few of the basics in ensuring that people get to feel the impact of governance, or what we call the dividend of democracy. But apparently, this is indirectly saying that whatever we're doing at the top is not getting to the bottom. So I would like you to speak to that as well. And then beneath the picture, you see that experts see Naira closing at closing 2025 at over 1,600 on year-end pressure, which is sometimes expected because of travels and all of that. What do you make of these two stories, sir?
Well, it's interesting that the federal government appears to be waking up now. I commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for that. It's a good step to take at this time, particularly with poverty sprawling across. Don't forget that various reports, whether it is World Bank reports, UNEP reports, all of them, point to the fact that there's multidimensional poverty in the country. So for me, it is a welcome development that the federal government is now looking at, actually trickling down the huge resources that is accruing to this government at this time as a result of the deliberate economic policies of this government, which most Nigerians are saying that has increased poverty in one hand, while also benefiting the elites on the other hand. So perhaps the president now, through the National Economic Council, is now looking at this. Again, the pressure that is coming from the opposition political parties, I want to trace this to some of the pressures, really, that the federal government under the APC administration is not doing too well. They are not using the resources to the benefit of the majority of Nigerians. So targeting the 8,110 wards, I hope I'm correct with those figures, targeting 1,000 individuals, Nigerians in the wards, where, to try and drive direct economic impact and move them a bit away from poverty. I think that is the way to go. If this is seen through, indeed the benefits will be huge. It will have ripple effect. So for me, it is a good development coming from the federal government. I'm sure Nigerians will applaud this. There are other intervention programs in the past. We have the NAR Fund, Nigerian Education Loan Fund. We also have the Social Investment Program, which seeks to put money in the house of Nigerians. But much more beyond that, I would have thought that what the government should look at much more critically, because the indices that is driving the current poverty level basically is the pump price increase of fuel and insecurity, which I think the government, because I read a report yesterday where the government is also charging the governors at the subnational level, the state level, to do more to stem insecurity in the country. If that is done, more farmers will we have access to their farms, and when more food is produced, that is going to drive down prices. So that is one critical element. And then, of course, fuel to transport the finished products from the farms to the consumer side, whether in the urban areas or in the markets. So these are areas that the government needs to look at very quickly. And then you talk about the other issue about I'm sure the question is about Forex, if I get that right. Or maybe you can just put me through the second question, please.
Yes, it's about the report that because of pressure, year-end pressure, we will likely end the year with the dollar, naira to the dollar coming to about 1,600. You know, we revolve around 1,005, oscillate around the hundreds of the 500 around there.
Yes, the government, in fact, that was also part of the outcome of the National Economic Council meeting yesterday. The government is talking about stabilizing the forest regime. To some extent, if you look at it, particularly from the beginning of this year, it has revolved around 1,530, 1,570. So if the government, is thinking of really sustaining the macroeconomic stability around the forest regime, most Nigerians are not impressed that we are doing even at that figure. But if worry now is that if at the end of the year we are going to do 1,600 to the dollar, then that is going to be quite devastating. Yes, while the government is making effort to put more money in the hands of Nigerians, the question, which is very critical, is what is the value of the money that you have in your hands? You know, we have much money purchasing very few commodities and goods. So what the government needs to do is, again, to focus more attention in not only stabilizing the forex exchange, but it's also to to raise the value of the naira such that its purchasing power can be enhanced and strengthened. I think that is what the government would be looking at this time. But anything short of that, I think that if by December, which of course is the period for the festivities, where most Nigerians will be making purchases, if you earn money and the money cannot purchase much for your family or for yourself, then I think the effort is almost futile.
Well, let's go over to another paper yet again this morning, and that would be Leadership Friday, which leads with, something that we focused on pretty much yesterday, but it appears that we can't emphasize it enough. It's the continuing nurses midwives strike. And take a look at the front page of Leadership Friday. Many critically ill patients are being rejected, says UUTH Chief Medical Director. There's one rider there that, gives a whole lot of insight. It paints a mental picture of what may be happening, not just at UUTH, but in other state-owned institutions where the strike is continuing. It says, we were caught unawares because we never anticipated the negotiation would fail. We were not prepared for this kind of emergency. Now, take note that prior to the commencement of the strike, a whole 15-day ultimatum was issued to government to attend to their needs. And right here, we're caught in the middle of the strike with so many emergencies and pressure on healthcare institutions in many states of the Federation. How much importance does this say about government attaching to the welfare and indeed of Nigerian patients, and indeed the welfare of the very important medical staff who take care of ill Nigerians? Mr. Igu.
Well, it's a tragic development that after 65 years of our flag independence from Britain, as it were, we are still confronted with very teething, basic primary health issues, whether it is at the primary health care level, of course, which is a complete failure. I had time to move around, my own state, where, a lot of effort is being made by the governor there to upgrade the primary health care facilities. Some subnational, some states are doing that. But a general overview of the health situation in Nigeria paints a very bleak future. Now, with more than 2 weeks of a pre-strike notice, and the government waits until the strike takes place, and then you begin negotiation. This has always been the practice on the side of government. Even when they begin these negotiations, there is the assumption, or there is the feeling that government does not always come to the negotiation table with good faith. So it's like, let's just talk to them and see how it goes. If our template is not accepted by them, then we can ask for a renegotiation of agreements that had been reached in the past. So this has been a forth and back situation. And I started by saying it's a tragic situation because, one, the lives of people are involved here. People are dying, you know, even from very, very basic ailments, malaria, typhoid, not to talk of the other deep issues, whether terminal diseases and all of that. Nigerians are dying, and it does not speak well of the government, where even top government officials, for the slightest headache that they feel, they fly abroad to access Medicare. You know, recently, former President Muhammadu Buhari, you know, died in an hospital in the UK and has to be flown back to be buried. So I can't understand. I'm sure most Nigerians will be astounded, will be surprised this morning that we have federal medical centers almost across the 6 geopolitical regions and the states. We have general hospitals, we have health facilities that cannot even boast of equipment that can treat some of the basic illnesses. If you look at the demands of the nurses and midwives, 90% of them is talking about their work environment, work tools, and just about 10% is talking about their welfare, which is salaries and emoluments. 90% of them is actually talking about you know, how government can enhance the work environment and discourage you know, the flight of nurses and medical staff abroad. So they are even, one would say that they are not selfish with this request.
Right.
So I'm a bit aghast, I'm a bit surprised that the government is talking about surprises that the negotiations are not working well. But one of the reports actually said that the federal government bars of pressure, they are withdrawing a memo that was earlier issued that actually sparked, gave rise to the strike. So, well, we'll see how it goes. It's a developing story, and I'm sure in the next few days, we hope to come to the end of this. It's a very embarrassing strike, very embarrassing situation that I think that countries around the world that is looking at happenings in Nigeria, they are likely not going to take us seriously.
All right. Mr. Akera, quickly, Nigeria News Direct also leads with another sector that needs a lot of help. Almost all sectors need help at this point. But this one is the education sector. And Nigeria News Direct says state governors declare state of emergency, or declare emergency, rather, on Nigeria's education crisis. Over 200,000 qualified teachers needed nationwide. UBEC warns of national development threat if ignored. So yeah, we're still discussing the health sector, but there's a very present challenge in the education sector as well. And these are really vital sectors to, you know, to the life of a nation, as it were. Over 200,000 qualified teachers needed. But the question is, how do we get those teachers? Because the average student probably doesn't want to go to a college of education and say, I want to go to a university. But we still need teachers from primary, secondary, even to the tertiary level. We need qualified people who are happy. So is there a way to hack this? Because it looks like a lot of people who choose teaching are people who have tried other things and they say, you know what, this is my 5th choice. Let me go to teaching. So they're not really happy sometimes, some of them.
Well, I will respond to this from a two-pronged approach. The first is why do we need such numbers of teachers, you know, in our educational institutions? Why are people not encouraged to go to the classroom to teach? First and foremost, I'm aware that the welfare condition for teachers across the country, whether it's at the primary school level, secondary school, or even the universities, is very, very abysmal, is poor. On the average, a primary school teacher earns 70,000 naira, 75,000. I doubt if, I want to challenge state governors this morning, you know, to show me evidence or proof that they pay teachers at the primary school or even secondary schools in their states 150,000. You know, so, and even if you are paid 150,000, you know, how far can that go, you know, for your family? I think this is part of the problem. The welfare of teachers, those days they say, oh, the reward of teachers is in heaven. Nobody wants to wait to get to heaven to reap any reward. So when you look at it, just oppose that against what the politicians are earning, whether it's a councillor at the local government level, a House of Assembly member at the state level, or a House of Reps or Senator at the federal level, you would then understand why most young people don't want to embrace the teaching profession. Then on the other hand, the overemphasis on university degrees is also creating problems, where you put some kind of limits. If you have an NCE or an HND certificate, you cannot rise above certain levels if you have to work for government. So all of these are inhibiting factors, in my view, to why we will have this problem. So except government looks at and evolve a deliberate policy to address these challenges, whether with regards to welfare of the teachers or even the disparity in educational qualifications with regards to certificates that graduates carry around and the premium paid on them, where the problem will continue, it will persist. We will not be able to deal with it. So, like I said, it's a two-pronged approach, which very quickly the government, if it's able to look at this, will have the problem behind us. The critical issue here is remuneration and welfare packages for teachers. Once that is enhanced, it is going to become a center of attraction for many people to want to venture into teaching. But for now, the conditions are not encouraged.
Let's go to this Nigerian newspaper. It's leading with something about health. There are actually two stories, one beside the nameplate and the other one beneath it. So let's get to the big one. Benue records 31 suspected cases of Mpox in 5 LGAs. Holds town hall meeting, commences vaccination to curtail surge. And I just empathize with Benue a couple of times because on one hand, we're dealing with the issue of insecurity and food issues like everybody's familiar with the visit of the president and his wife. And yet again, this particular case. But in speaking to that, if you want to explore that conversation, just above it is also some positive. The Nigeria's cashew nut export hits over $390 million in the first half of 2025. That's according to the record by the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. So maybe you start with the issue of the health and what is being done, whether it's aggressive enough to curtail this Mpox situation in 5 LGAs of Benue State.
Well, again, this speaks to our preparedness, to deal with health challenges. If you look at what happened during COVID-19, we had to scramble as a country, look up to the West to bring COVID vaccine to us as a country. And my argument has always been that Nigeria is the biggest black nation on earth. The country is blessed, with diverse resources that can take care of all our problems. We do not need the West or anybody outside of Nigeria to give us aids to deal with our problems. Yes, we can collaborate through the multi-sectoral approach, working with other governments across the world. Nobody's an island. Yes, but when you have to go cap in hand all the time to foreign powers to help you, I see that as a challenge. Now, specifically on the Benue issue, do not forget Benue is ravaged by insecurity, by terrorism. Many Benue citizens, Nigerians living in Benue, are in IDP camps. Governor Aliyah is battling with that problem. They've set up the Community Protection Guard to try and stabilize the situation. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu visited the last time and charged security agencies, to try and arrest those that are, killing people in Benue State. We used to have this problem almost in Kaduna when in the last administration of El-Rufai, where southern Kaduna almost became a killing field. That is what is happening in Benue now, and to some extent in Plateau State. So if Mpox is added to the problems of Benue State, that simply compounds the problem. I want to see beyond the Benue State government. This requires a direct intervention of the federal government to deal with the Mpox situation in Benue State. If it's already 5 local governments, then I'm sure my worry this morning, as it will be with everyone watching us this morning, would be if it spreads beyond Benue State. Adjoining states, we have Nasarawa State. You also have Enugu State, that is from Enugu, then you are entering the southeast. If it spreads beyond Benue State, I will ready to deal with it. Mpox is a very complicated disease. It defies all kinds of treatment. The vaccines are a bit expensive to procure. I do not know whether we'll have it. We have a very competent minister, Ali Pate, who is the Minister of Health, and coordinating Minister of Social Services. I hope he will develop a strategy to deal with this once and for all. But much more importantly this morning is also to protect our borders. Some of these diseases that find their way into the country, the foreigners bring them in, or Nigerians who also travel outside the country, maybe to some African countries where the disease is prevalent. They come in, and there's no proper check, medical check at the border, and then they come in. Sometimes they import these diseases to us. So for me, there's a need to strengthen our border vigilance such that, particularly ensuring that health officials at our border are able to carry out routine and regular checks on visitors and Nigerians who are crisscrossing our borders, to ensure that we nip these kind of problems in the bud. But very importantly, as I said earlier, the Benue situation calls for immediate action, and that requires the direct intervention of the federal government.
Well, Mr. Akeria, we have to thank you for your interventions this morning, quite succinct. We've been speaking with Mr. A.O. Akeria, who's a member of Nigerian Guild of Editors, former deputy editor and our bureau chief of the Guardian newspaper. Thank you for your time, and wish you the very best.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So that's a look at the front pages, but there are issues that we must not take our eyes off, and we'll bring you some of them in a moment. Please stay with us.